is NDTV and you are watching NDTV Prime.
Hi guys, welcome to a brand new episode of CNB Bazaar Buzz here on the NDTV network. I'm Siddharth Partner and we have a very important car lined up for you on today's show. So we're going to get straight into it. The Ford EcoSport. So much has been spoken about it the last few months. We've all talked about the facelift, the update that's coming, and it is now finally here. We unboxed the car for you on CNB last week and I promised you the review here on Bazaar Buzz. Let's get straight into my drive in Goa. The new Ford EcoSport facelift is finally here after making us wait a long time. I've driven all three drivetrains on the new car, so let's get straight into it. When I unboxed the car last week, you got a sense of all that's new in terms of styling and features. Now, the whole focus of this redesign is to try and make the car look more butch, a little bit more macho, and that comes through straight away. Raised hood, more muscle in it. The split grille is gone. You've got this one big grille now, which is like some of the other SUVs in Ford's global lineup, including, of course, the Endeavour that we get. Larger headlamp. The DRL at first might seem a little forced, but then does work well. It is modern, contemporary, and good for this segment. The fog lamp is much larger again and is very noticeable. So the whole face, like I said, does look bigger. The bumper also has a different approach angle, so sits a little taller, once again giving it that SUV stance, more so than the last car had. Now, I have to say this, that a lot of people say that this was required. To me, the EcoSport was always a nice looking car. It was a good design and it wasn't as if it wasn't SUV enough. So this is just a different, completely new look, and it's not so much about improving on the last car in my opinion. The blue color, of course I like it. It's lightning blue, a lot like the kinetic blue you got earlier, but this one pops more. It's a little brighter in the sun. So the car looks very different up front, and it would have been nice to have very new tail lights, especially with an LED element to them maybe, but I'm not complaining too much, as the rear still goes with the restyle. Inside the cabin, things are very new. The top spec variant gets a reverse camera, 6 airbags, while the Titanium just below gets auto climate control, the large 8-inch touchscreen with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, keyless entry, a start-stop button, reverse parking sensors, and much more as standard. A cooled glove box, tilt and telescopic steering, dual airbags and ABS are standard across all variants. The auto climate control is effective, and I did quite enjoy the new gadgets and the music system. The new seats are well padded with better side and under thigh support. Of course, this is just a facelift, and so to once again answer a common question I've been getting, no, there is no change in rear legroom. The boot though now gets a false bottom, which reveals either a deeper cargo space if you remove the tray that covers it, or a concealed area that lets you keep valuables like laptops, for instance, out of sight. Now with the new system, you find that the ergonomics of it all really work well. Firstly, the seats are nice and comfortable. You have a commanding view of the road. That's pretty much like the last EcoSport, though a little bit better. But everything that you see here, including the reason why this screen sort of floats so high up, it has a good line of sight with the driver. You don't really take your eyes off the road too much. And of course, you don't really need to do that too much anyway, because you can use sync and pretty much use voice commands. So you don't really have to access that screen and divert your attention from the driving. Now you start driving the car and you instantly get a sense that all the good bits are still there. So handling is good, The ride quality is great, and more so from the perspective of comparing it with what else is in this segment right now. And you will find that there's a certain refinement in the ride that you get from this car that the others don't have. But really, my agenda was to get to know the new engine better. Ford says it's moved away from the old 1.5 and gone to the 3-cylinder for not just India, but other markets too. And that engine is being made in India for all markets. It is lighter, smaller, and yet packs a punch with healthy numbers. So much curiosity about this Dragon engine. Now the 1.5 3-cylinder does become the segment's most powerful. It all sounded really good on paper, and so I was very curious to drive it for that reason. Now, it won't disappoint you as such, but having said that, it also won't excite you. And that's where I think Ford has very obviously gone towards fuel efficiency, and the engine mapping has been done keeping that mileage number in mind. And I can understand why that's happened, because last time around with the EcoBoost, it was a fun to drive, really exciting engine, but it let a lot of people down in terms of fuel efficiency because you had to sort of know how to drive it. This engine will not have that problem at all, and it's been well mapped to the automatic transmission, which by the way is nice and quick. But yes, you will feel a little bit disappointed because typically from Ford cars you want that sporty, edgy performance, and some of that punch is just missing. The 1.5 Dragon doesn't come across as a 3-pot though, except for when you turn the ignition and it starts with a clatter. In fact, the engine and road noise are well controlled outside the cabin through some good sound insulation. Now you put the car in sport mode and you don't get that exaggerated surge or big tug that you get from some of the other compacts that have a sport mode. So that's nice, it's nice and smooth. There is an apparent difference in the performance. Of course, the engine gets a little more responsive. Your gear ratios are much longer, but it's not as if again you turn into a different car or a different animal. It still stays a little bit tame, and it just goes back to the fact that everything has been sort of just tuned too much towards mileage. I think they've been so burned by the EcoBoost experience, they don't want to take a chance with that. The petrol automatic will do very well in city traffic though, as gears hold and there aren't frequent downshifts. It's only when you try and push it hard that it's going to seem wanting. Now the engine does pretty well when you're coasting along. It cruises along really nicely. It's good in city traffic too, but when you're on the highway, the punch I was talking about that's missing, well, below 2000 RPM things stay a little bit sort of muted. After that though, the engine does come alive. And more so when you switch the transmission to S or Sport mode. While it's not as sporty as I'd have liked, it certainly gets more responsive, though the tinny nature of the 3-cylinder starts to be heard more often than not as gear ratios get longer. In fact, in Sport, you can push the engine to 7000 RPM and effect quick overtakes and acceleration. I mentioned that the gear shifts are nice and quick, and they are, and I have to say that with the paddle shift things get even more interesting, though when you're in lower gears and you're trying to move up a gear, there's a bit of a lag between the time you hit the paddle and the gear actually changing. But otherwise, it's a nice thing to have paddle shifters in this segment. The 6-speed transmission certainly is quite a welcome addition. While I may have been a bit underwhelmed by the petrol auto, the manual is a whole lot more exciting. The manual gearbox allows the engine to stretch its legs and gives you a better overall performance that's more responsive. So all the exciting changes are on the petrol side, but that doesn't mean that the diesel won't have any traction. In fact, I'm pretty sure diesel is where a lot of you would like to know what's happening. So let's get a quick update on the diesel version now. Ameya is driving that car. The torquey 1.5 TDCi diesel is heaps of fun, as it always was, and you will find no change between the new and the old car in pure performance terms. While many of you have asked and I have answered, let me clarify that there is to be no diesel automatic variant. Yes, another SUV with no diesel auto.
Now the diesel is the 1.5 litre engine, which is a tried and tested one actually from Ford. It's been in so many cars, and now still this comes unchanged to the new EcoSport. In fact, it's the same amount of power as well at your disposal. There's 99 brake horsepower, and pulling power is around 205, and you still enjoy driving this one as much as you enjoyed the previous one. It's not a generation change as such, but the car just feels well weighted because of the weight of the engine up front and the spare tire at the rear. Probably the distribution therefore is a bit better than probably the petrol one.1However, it's still fun to drive, and the torque is just phenomenal. It just keeps pulling at an RPM above 2000 RPM. But it's fabulous. It's fun to drive.
Of course, on the diesel you do get all the new styling and tech features too. Ford says 1600 of the close to 2000 parts on the new EcoSport are all new. And so it would be fair to say that it does go a bit further than being simply a facelift. Prices will be announced when the car launches on the 9th of November, along with exact variant lists. Ford has sold over 200,000 units of the EcoSport in India since the car first launched in 2013. It also successfully exported large numbers to Europe. Now with the updated car, it relinquishes European exports in favor of a much larger order from the American market, which gets the EcoSport for the first time. So expect the new EcoSport to likely fire up volumes once more for Ford. So the EcoSport will launch in just a few days' time, and we'll of course have the prices for you on carandbike.com and here on the show. So something to look forward to, though the expectation is that Ford won't be touching prices very adversely. Something to look forward to. And that new variant as well, Trend Plus, is something else to expect on the EcoSport. We'll take a short break here. I hope you enjoyed that review. You've got to give me some feedback on it. Stay with us. We come back with answers to your questions and a new bike from Ducati.